Pat Mayo Hour.
Welcome to the Pat Mayo Hour UFC 211 DraftKings picks and preview. We're back after the UFC decided to go on hiatus for like 8 months or 2 weeks or wherever the hell it was. Cody Saftic's back. What's up?
Yeah, glad to be here. Another big card. Like I said, the break I think helps out. Just get people excited. You know, when you have a card every single weekend, people don't really look at the card.
I was getting burnt out, and I'm not even watching it.
I'll tell you what, I feel you very much so. I'm a mega fan, but I don't even know if it's the whole work thing or the cards, but I just been burnt out in general lately. So let's get back on it.
Hopefully this gets you very excited.
Yeah, winning always gets me excited, right? So let's get on a winner.
All right, let's take the guaranteed money, get some cash games on the go. Who are you going with?
Yeah, for the cash game, we're going to start off with Antigulov. Now, this guy is on a 13-fight winning streak.
$9,400, second most expensive player.
Fair, and I would have taken James Vick, but as you can see that I saved $0 on this team, I really needed the extra $100, so I decided to go with Antigulov. He'd be more of a GPP play here than a cash game play, just because he is a little bit reckless. Undersized for the weight class, only 5'11", but man, I tell you what, physical specimen. Wrecking machine. They got him listed at 30. More realistically, he's 40, but he should still
Where's he from? Ukraine or something?
Dagestan, Russia. There's no way. You think I got a bad hairline. This guy's got a bad hairline, okay? And he's had a bad hairline since he was allegedly 22. Not saying that's impossible, but he's just... you can get away with certain things at this level, okay? He's got a fight here against Joachim Christensen that I think he will be able to get away with a lot of those things. When he made his UFC debut, he's on a 12-fight winning streak. The thing is, a lot of people said, well, I never heard of him, and I never heard of the guys he was fighting.
Was he fighting bears in Russia?
Yeah, pretty much. And bears with good records, man. These weren't, he's a 50-50 bear, he's 500. No. He's actually fighting a good level of opposition. So he comes to the UFC, he takes on a guy who's already established with the company, already has five fights under his belt, big, powerful Brazilian. Antigulov comes in as the underdog. Paul Shaughnessy both like this. We like this guy. He goes in, he gets the job done. Very, very strong, good takedowns. And when he is standing, he just wings reckless shots. Now, listen, he's probably one of the bigger favorites on the card. In fact, I think he might actually be the biggest favorite on the card. I don't think Joachim Christensen is just so awful that he's a fish out of water here that he'll get beat up. But stylistically speaking, Antigulov has all the tools to just give him all types of frustrations.
Does Paul love every Russian fighter?
Yeah, mostly, especially if they're from Dagestan. But no, listen, this guy is very, very strong, very, very powerful. He trains with probably the best gym that's currently in Dagestan. He's also spent a little bit of time at American Top Team, mostly because he had Russian training partners that basically said, hey, come over and get some work in. But to my knowledge, he has done this camp in Russia. As I talked about, you see this guy, only 5'11". He will be giving up 3-4 inches in height, but just physically imposing, very, very stocky. Now, the last thing on there is when you have so much muscle and you push the kind of pace he does and you're searching for takedowns all the time, naturally, people are going to assume you're going to get tired very fast. He's got something like 7 wins in 1 minute. So out of his 12 wins, I think he's finished, his last 13 wins, I think he's finished 12 of them. His UFC debut was only 1 minute, and he generally finishes fighters in the first round. Of that 13-fight winning streak, he's only been the distance 1 time. So a lot of people are thinking here, hey, old Russian guy's likely going to get tired once he doesn't have his way. Thing is that, at least from the tape that I've seen, is that if he doesn't get his way in the first round, he gets it in the second, but he's not getting tired before he gets it. You know, he keeps grinding and pushing and grinding, and that'll help him here.
Betting-wise, you say he's the biggest favorite on the card. Is there any value in betting Christensen by decision?
No, I think if Christensen is a black belt in BJJ, right? That being said, he comes in his own respective UFC debut and he gets caught by a purple belt, got submitted in the second round with an armbar.
Nerves?
Yeah, you would think that nerves are coming in, but also this is a guy that debuted in the UFC at 38 years of age, right? Now, I know what you're saying. Well, you said the Russian guy's old. The Russian guy's young on paper, at least. But what Christensen has going against him is that even though he fought good European prospects, he was late coming into the UFC. So they give him a prospect right off the bat and say, listen, if you can hang with Frankenstein, then, maybe you've got a future here. He loses to Frankenstein. Striking looks good. It's serviceable. He's not a power puncher, but he's very tall, so he can get his knees in operation.
What weight class
He'll stick it as 1-2, 205 pounds.
Okay.
And because 205 pounds is probably the worst division in the UFC in terms of, they got John Jones and Daniel Cormier, but if you're looking at actual depth, there's not a whole lot of it. So these guys somewhat factor in that bottom 15 of the division. I wouldn't say either of them are ranked. I wouldn't say a win for either guy here puts them ranked, but they're floating around that top 15. I think Antigulov's a guy that's already fought good level of opposition in Russia prior to coming over. Christensen's fought good level of opposition in Europe prior to coming over. But now you've got a guy that's just far superior in physicality, right? Antigulov goes out there. If he wants to fight on the ground, I think he gets to fight on the ground. I think he gets to fight on the ground rather easily. Where I'd normally be upset, like, ooh, you know what? BJJ black belt throwing up submissions. Antigulov's got good submission defense, got good submission offense, and quite frankly, I've seen Christensen get subbed by a purple belt. His submissions are okay, but they're not fantastic. If the fight stays standing, that's where I'm worried. But I'm going to have the shorter Antigulov throwing the big, heavy hammers, closing that distance, getting the takedown, grinding him out. If he goes up 2 rounds, I don't want to say it's impossible, but if he's up 2 rounds, even if he fades in the third, he'll still cruise it out and just get the win anyways. But more than likely, he pushes that pace, he breaks him down, he finishes him, takes out Antigulov. It's a cash game. Like I said, worst case scenario is he gasses out. I don't see him getting finished, although it's possible. So I feel he's safe in that regard. And the ceiling for him would be very high because this is a guy that can go out and get a first-round stoppage, he can get a second-round stoppage, or he can just purely dominate with the takedowns and the ground and pound and still score you a good amount of points. So where is James Vick? The downside with James Vick, even though I think he's going to win, we're going to talk about it because I got him in GPP. The downside there is that he could get clipped. He could get hit with that big right hand. Whereas Antigulov, if he's going to lose, he's likely going to have to settle in for the 15. I know I said Christensen could finish him, but just because I don't see Christensen just beating him for 15 minutes. But anything's possible in this game, Pat.
And since he's taking on a Russian, Christensen's going to have to deal with, like, when he walks to the weigh-in, there's going to be breaking news his emails got hacked and it's going to be released to the public.
Wow.
He's probably a crazy person.
Exactly. Well, I hear Kami's got some spare time now, so maybe he can corner him.
Joanna and Jedrzejczyk?
Jedrzejczyk.
Getting better with this. This is like the 8th time I've tried to pronounce her name on the show. It's finally
least.
clicking in. How the hell is she only $8,800? She scores all the fantasy points.
Yeah, all the fantasy points. It's funny because we've talked about her for a long time, and then if you look at what her average is on DraftKings, 99 points is what she averages. So that is the highest average of anybody.
She scored. It's the highest average of anyone who doesn't have like one fight and they got a quick knockout.
Yeah, but even then, this is a girl that's fought multiple times in the organization, and that's the average. Of course, she's had 140-point performances. She's also had 80-point performances. When you average it all together, you're getting 5 rounds. We know the kind of pace she can put in, and for $8,800, I got to take this on a cash game.
And we talked about the score. Like, you need to take her on GPPs too. She's probably going to be the highest. If it goes to decision, it's 5-round fight, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's even better for her.
Yeah.
Because her finishing points don't matter. It's just, what is it, takedown, switch, takedown, switch.
Yeah,
just little punches.
And here's the other thing to look forward to, so to speak. If you look at the fact that fight with Claudia Gadelha, right, her last fight, she's putting up astronomical amounts of points. It's impressive. It's, wow, look at this girl go. And very important to note that she lost the first 2 rounds of that fight and was largely just held down and scored nothing. So that's what she can go in 3 hard rounds. So a lot of people are telling me, listen, Andrade is very strong. She's very powerful. She might be able to go out there and take down Jedrzejczyk for the first couple rounds and really hold her down and, nullify that offense. I say, listen, give her the first 2, 3, 4, and 5, baby. That's all Jedrzejczyk needs to score 100 points. So do I expect her to get 100 points here? Yeah, I certainly think it's possible. If she wins a decision, she does exactly that. Punch output, significant strikes.
So I have 120 points if she wins.
All day. Besides from that, don't think she can't get the finish here. I know that she's been taking some opponents into those 5 rounds, obviously, and she's not known as a one-hitter quitter. She's not known for that big one-punch power. She's known as a volume puncher. But Jessica Andrade is a girl that usually goes out there, empties her gas tank early, fades out, gets finished late. If you look at her fights that she's had, whether it be against Raquel Pennington, whether it be against Liz Carmouche, she starts off strong, but she fades. And fading against a girl that throws over 100 significant strikes per round is not the spot you want to be in. So I do like the
I guess my
champion.
Question is, if you're playing a whole bunch of lineups,
yeah,
I'm guessing she's going to be the highest owned player, regardless of format, cash game, GPP. Is there any value?
I don't know about that, but
really?
I would assume so as well. Here's the thing, though: you got to look at the fact that on the betting line, this is the undisputed champion. This is by far the #1 strawweight in the world. This is probably
so why would
already.
everyone take her?
She's only a -150 on the betting.
Who cares? DraftKings players understand DraftKings points. And especially with the new scoring coming in, it's been like 6 months, 8 months now. People are really kind of figuring that out. And she's like the best DraftKings scorer. Besides that Tim Elliott guy, apparently.
Yeah, exactly. But listen, Andrade's going to go out there, and Andrade is going to look for the takedowns. Andrade is going to look for the ground control. Also, Andrade is better on the ground. I mean, she's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt.
So I guess what I'm saying is
she's got a path to victory.
Is there any value in taking Andrade, just saying, maybe I'm off on this?
No, you're right.
And Jedrzejczyk's not going to be the highest owned person. I would think that she is, just based on her past performances.
Yeah,
and the fact that she is a favorite in this fight. And she's only $8,800.
Well, that's the thing. I would say someone like James Vick, probably more people want James Vick. But for $9,500, no one's really want to spend this extra $700. So I think you take Jedrzejczyk, unless you're one of those people that think that Andrade has got her time coming, and Andrade is going to win the fight. Andrade has fought similar opponents to Jedrzejczyk. They both fought Jessica Penne, for example. You got Joanna Jedrzejczyk, who threw absolutely everything at Penne, and I believe stopped her in the 4th round. Meanwhile, you've got Jessica Andrade, who needed one single round. She's a heavier power puncher. She's got good striking. You look at her on the ground. She takes Joanne Calderwood down. She takes Calderwood's back, and she chokes her out. We've never had to see Joanna Jedrzejczyk really get taken, except for against Claudia, get taken down, but we've never seen her give up her back. We've never seen her have to fight off submissions. We've never seen her completely get owned in that aspect. I think Andrade has got a lot of good problems that she brings to the table, but like you're saying, we know what Jedrzejczyk can score. We know Jedrzejczyk's already got her sights set on 125 pounds. We know Jedrzejczyk can throw so many significant strikes in the course of 25 minutes. Yeah, I feel like that's the easy play to take. If you're going to play multiple lineups, nothing wrong with that. If you're going to play multiple lineups, don't put Joanna on every single lineup in case she loses. But would a small play on Andrade be worth it? I don't see why not.
How much is Andrade? She is...
Everybody on this card, the B side...
7,400.
The B side on every single fight has a chance to win.
What was the fight that was canceled? Pettis?
Yeah. Cejudo versus Pettis.
Just... Why? No one can make weight?
No, Cejudo's got a hand injury, and so I guess he was down to fight, but the doctors looked at it prior to weigh-ins and were just like, no way, man, your hand's bummed up.
But despite that being on the card, 2 names like even I know, so recognizable.
Pettis is the younger brother of the Pettis you know.
Okay.
You still should know
Fair
Sergio,
enough.
But he's Anthony's little brother.
Okay, fair enough. It's Anthony Pettis I was thinking of. But either way, bit of name recognition, but you're saying it's not that big of a deal for this card, still very good.
Yeah, I think when you look at this card and you're just like, well, what's the big fight on the card? It's like, wow, there's not really that one big fight, but it's like, man, you're getting a heavyweight title in the main event, you know, Stipe versus JDS, that's a big fight. Okay, well, what else is on the card? You got another title. You got Ioane and Jedrzejczyk taking on Andrade. Well, what else is on the card? Man, we got Jordan Masvidal versus Damian Maia, likely a number 1 contender match for 170 pounds. It's like, oh, okay, I'm really interested. But what else is on the card? Former champion Frankie Edgar versus a lot of guy that people think is the future Yair Rodriguez.
Oh, last time we took him was, I think, in Phoenix, and he went crazy.
Crazy. And it's just like, wow, what else do we got? Well, if you want to go on the prelims now, buddy, you got former World Series of Fighting champion Dave Branch making his UFC return. You got former number 1 ranked 115-pounder in the world Jessica Aguilar on the prelims. You've got former lightweight champion Eddie Alvarez versus Dustin Poirier on the prelims. This is all prelims. So when people were like, fight just got canceled, everyone's like, no! And they're like, Cejudo versus Pettis. You're like, dude, if I was going to lose one, you could take that one, okay? If I was going to lose one of those, that's the one I'd say I suppose you could take. So even though people are bummed out, even though I'm bummed out, no one's more bummed out than Pettis and Cejudo, obviously. Life goes on. It's still a 13-fight card, and it's still a great card. So I don't think it's the end of the world. Also, sorry to cut you off, but that was the second biggest favorite with Cejudo. So I like close matchups. I like matchups where I can't really figure it out. Unless I'm putting the big money on it, then I want the straightforward ones. That one was a big favorite for Cejudo. He was probably going to take him down. He's probably going to control him. The fact that we lost it, not the end of the world.
Well, the next 3 players on your cash game teams all seem to be in that realm of 81, 8,000. Those seem like coin flip fights to me. And one of them is Alvarez over Poirier.
Yeah, spent a lot of money. So first of all, if you're going to go with Antigulov and Jedrzejczyk at 9,400 and 8,800 respectively, you're going to have to save some money here. So Eddie Alvarez, $8,100. Here's my thinking on this one. This is a cash game. Very much is a cash game. It's hard to put Eddie Alvarez away, man. I mean, yeah, you're going to look at Conor McGregor, and people will say, Conor McGregor knocked him out. Yeah, Conor McGregor also knocked out Dustin Poirier, who didn't do even as good. They both did poorly. So let's just take that argument off the table. You got Eddie Alvarez that's just durable. I mean, the guy's made a career of that durability. That's what he's known for. I mean, you had Robin Black do a whole chart basically on the Sap Alvarez scale, which is a scale basically measuring people's like ability to take risk and run to the fire instead of away from it. It's named after Eddie Alvarez because that's who he was. Now, he don't fight like that anymore. You know, he's got a family, he's got a mortgage, he's got a life after fighting, he's taken a lot of damage, so he's not that crazy fighter anymore. But there's no denying that he's still known for that durability. Now, you look at the guy's run in the UFC. He's main evented or co-main evented every single fight he's ever had in the UFC. He's fought in good guys like Donald Cerrone, whom he went the distance with, Anthony Pettis. Sorry, Gilbert Melendez.
Conor McGregor.
Well, he didn't go the distance with McGregor, but you're right. He's fought all the best guys. Now he's being regulated to the prelims, so just even that is a bit of a head scratcher. How you go from that high of a profile and now to the prelims. Now, Dustin Poirier, yeah, the guy's got big power. Yeah, the guy wants to get in the pocket. He wants to throw with you. But if he's over-aggressive, then you can do exactly to him what a guy like Michael Johnson did. Allow him to come in, hit him with the counter punch. The guy, even though he's only been knocked out a handful of times, He's known as a bit of a chinny fighter. He has been hurt by guys like Akira Kurosani that weren't on his level. You can clip Poirier and you can hurt him. I get he's at 55 and he's looking better than ever. Well, he didn't look particularly good against Jim Miller in his last fight now, did he? He gets the win on a majority decision, but it wasn't some grand spectacle. Now he's taking on the former champ. Dustin Poirier's a guy that usually chokes when the big fight comes. He can beat the guys like Yancy Medeiros in the world. He can go out there and he can beat Carlos Diego Ferreira. But it's when the big fight comes is usually when Dustin Poirier chokes. This, in many ways, you're fighting the former world champion who's literally one fight removed from losing the belt. Not a guy that's shot at this point. He's one fight removed from losing the belt. That's a big fight. These are the type of fights that Dustin Poirier generally chokes in. So I'm looking at the price on Eddie Alvarez, and honestly, he's on my cash game team because I'm looking at this as best case scenario, he knocks Dustin Poirier out. Worst case scenario, it's a close decision, and maybe it's a close decision that he loses, but it's still going to be a close decision. The guy's durable. Could he get clipped? Yeah, I get it. It's MMA. Anything can happen. But what I'd expect for him is to go out there, get the win, if not in spectacular fashion, in solid fashion, and even if he loses, I'm going to get my enough points out of him for $8,100. I'm willing to take that play on.
Also at 8,100, Jessica Aguilar.
Jessica Aguilar has not fought in 2 years, nearly 2 years. She had to have her
ring rust?
No, she had to have her ACL repaired.
Yeah, but she's going to have ring rust.
You would assume so. Now, here's the thing that we got going for us if you're Jessica Aguilar fan. Number one is that she used to be the number one ranked 115-pounder in the world. She's been fighting for a very long time. I believe she turned pro back in 2006, and she's been keeping at it. But this is a girl that went on a 10-fight winning streak outside of the UFC to finally get signed to the UFC. Now, keep in mind, she largely competed in a time where women's MMA wasn't highly promoted, especially not 115 pounds. So where Ronda got signed at 135 and where people eventually jumped on it, she was getting a little bit older, and that wasn't her weight class. But after she beat Megumi Fuji, especially the second time, first time was very close, she took the rank and the title of the top strawweight on the planet. But time goes by, and now you got these other contenders. Carlos Esparza won the reality show, became the first ever champ. Aguilar already had a win over Carlos Esparza. Carlos Esparza loses it to Jedrzejczyk, and the rest is history. Now Jedrzejczyk's the top girl in the world, and you've got Aguilar that's largely floated on the radar. So 2 years ago, she does sign with the UFC. Great time. She's come to the UFC. She goes and she takes on Claudia Gadelha. Claudia Gadelha is the number 2 ranked strawweight in the world. She's fought Jedrzejczyk twice. A lot of people thought she won the first time. She gave her the best fight of Jedrzejczyk's career in the second fight. She's tough. She's very tough. She took on Aguilar. She beat Aguilar up. Now, it's important to note, though, even though she beat up Aguilar, even though she likely won 30-27 across the board, Aguilar still scored 35 points on DK even though she got trounced. But what she did was she got trounced here, Pat, and she still landed 70 significant strikes, which is very impressive considering people don't really do that against Gadelha. To that point, Courtney Casey, the girl she's fighting, well, she just fought Claudia Gadelha her last fight. How'd she do? 11 points through the same 15 minutes. So Jessica Aguilar, if you're just going to use MMA math, Jessica Aguilar looked far better against Claudia Gadelha. Now, I know what you're saying. Well, it's been 2 years. So much changes in 2 years. Well, Jessica Aguilar is the team captain of American Top Team for the women's pro team. When Jedrzejczyk, the champion, the number 1 girl in the world, came there last year and said, I want to train there, the other girls on the team said, no, we don't want you here. Aguilar went out on a limb and said, we need this girl here. She's the number 1 girl in the world. We can learn from her. They brought her in. They got Tisha Torres already there. They got Nina Ansarov already there. Amanda Nunes, the 135-pound champion, she's already there. They've got a fantastic team, and Aguilar has always been the captain there. So even though she's been off for 2 years, could you imagine the rounds that she gets in the gym on a day-to-day basis? She's training with the champ who's on this card getting ready to defend the title. She's going to have... The ring rust is not that big of a deal to me because I think that she's training at such an exceptionally high level that when I look at Courtney Casey, who runs her own gym in Hawaii and has effectively no training partners, well, who's the real ring rust on here? This girl's got 10 fights for Courtney Casey versus nearly 30 fights for Jessica Aguilar. So the experience is just going to weigh too much. The training camp is just going to be too much. Courtney Casey's relatively taking this fight on short notice. Doesn't seem overly motivated. Just, I got something to prove. And did not look good in her last fight against Claudia Gadelha. I think if you're going to look at Aguilar, you're going to look at the value here at $8,100. You also got to look at the fact that she's the underdog in terms of the betting line. The only time I'd take Aguilar out here is because Masvidal is a little bit more expensive. If you could afford a guy like Masvidal, go for it. But Masvidal's not really a cash game team because the downside of Damian Maia has his way with it is bad. Aguilar's downside here is she loses a 3-round decision, but this girl's
scores
not.
a lot of significant strikes.
She's not going to get put away. In a decision loss, I think she scores 40, 50 points. In a decision win, she could score as much as 80 points. Does she get the finish? Not likely. But 3 rounds of her pushing the kind of pace that she pushes when she's in shape and healthy, knee's not hurting her anymore. It's actually healthy for the first time in a long time. So even though she's 35 years old, she hasn't had the best fight of her career yet, and I'm expecting her to have a good performance here.
So the next 2 fighters that round out your cash team, Jason Knight and Yair Rodriguez, are both on your GPP team as well. Why Jason Knight?
Jason Knight, once again, the ceiling for this guy is very high in that he pushes an incredible pace and he can go out there and he can get the win over Chad Skelly. Hell, he could even go out there and he could finish Chad Skelly. But I'm looking at, especially on a cash game team, is where's the basement for this guy? And the basement for a guy like Jason Knight is still pretty high because of that action all in your face all the time. I mean,
he's just constantly scoring points.
Yeah, the kind of pace that he throws. And listen, this is a guy I've been watching for a while. He used to fight for Titan FC, and then literally he was set up to get smoked by this unbelievably good Russian prospect, Ruslan Kamanayev. Anyways.
You're starting to sound like me.
Yeah, exactly. Choking on my words here. But anyways, he's set up to lose his fight. He loses the first round. He loses the second round. And literally, what can you do? The guy's just far so strong. He throws up just the nastiest triangle choke off his back. The guy's a purple belt, too, at the time. It's like, buddy, where'd you even learn how to do that? So slick, he gets the submission. It's like, oh, my God, we got to sign this guy. He signs with the UFC. He's just a kid, 23 years old. Takes on Tatsuya Kawajiri. He's got 40 fights. Been fighting for 15 years, basically. Is so experienced. Takes off on a short notice. He gets grounded. He loses. He comes back, and this guy's got a chip on his shoulder. You know, you like him. If you want to stand with him, no problem. He will stand right in front of you, and he'll just beat you on punch output. His chin, unbelievably good. You've seen him get rocked the odd time, but it's like he takes a punch very, very well. He recovers extremely well. On the ground, he's tenacious. But also, his last couple fights, he's been mixing in his wrestling a little bit. If he thinks he needs to get that takedown, or he thinks he might be down on the scorecards, he'll mix in the takedown. He's got good takedowns. He's good on top. I like the kid. I really like the kid. But it's that ability that you can't phase him, you know? If this is mental warfare, he's going to win every single time because he does not get phased. He's there to take care of business. He's there to fight. He's probably one of the few guys in there that if you were not paying him any money, he'd still be there fighting, right? And I like that attitude. I like that ability for him to just be so confident and so eager to get in there. Now, I look at Chad Skelly, and Chad Skelly, big fan of his as well. But when the going gets hot, and I mean when it starts to get really hot, this guy breaks a little bit. You can hurt him standing. He's a good junior college All-American wrestler, but once again, you can stuff his shot. And lately, we've been seeing, especially look at like the Maximo Blanco fight, the guy's got a nasty grappling game. If he can go out there and he can hurt you and he can get a hold of your neck, he'll put you out. But I don't think that's an option with Jason Knight. So now I look at the fact that, okay, can you just go take this guy down? Sure, but can you do it consistently? What about when you take him down and he pops back up? That's demoralizing for me because he pops back up and he pops back up calling you motherfucker and getting in your face and throwing heavy heat again. So once again, it's just like I can't keep up with it. At least most guys can't keep up with him. Chad Skelly's going to go out there and he'll try. But we just don't know if he will be able to keep that pace. But finally, you look at his fight against Souza. He gets clipped and he gets hurt. And he's got to rely on the fact that even though I'm hurt, I can get the fight to the ground and I can smith the guy. He has to rely on that plan B. But against Jason Knight, that plan B is just not there. If he hurts you, he's going to make you pay. If you take him down, he's going to try to make you pay. And the fact that he can go 15 hard minutes is going to be big. Now, Skelly's from Texas. I'm sure that's going to be part of the reason why he's the favorite. But this is a guy that abandoned Texas to go to Florida to get his training in. So I don't feel like it's, oh, I'm in my own backyard. I feel very comfortable. I'm going to put on a great show for these fans. I feel like it's very much, I got to travel back home, and there's a lot of pressure on me that some of my old buddies are going to come out. And I just feel like Knight, a guy that fights in such a free environment, is going to be able to go there. And once again, and I know I've used this exact same thing, but if Aguilar loses, she'll hang around. She'll get me the points. If Eddie Alvarez loses, he'll hang around. He'll get me the points. Jason Knight's the same way. These guys are not going to get blown out, and therefore they're low risk because I don't got to worry about getting one guy get conked out in 45 seconds and scoring me 0 points.
Last player, Yair Rodriguez.
Rodriguez.
He's going to win in like 40 seconds?
Nah, he's another punch output guy. Taking out Frankie Edgar would be one hell of a task. I mean, you can beat Frankie Edgar, but finishing him, I just don't really see it. But what Yair Rodriguez has got is that he's a bona fide featherweight, a guy that's long, a guy that's got good size for the division. Frankie Edgar, despite being the former 155-pound champ,
Edgar?
Well, that's exactly it. He's been around for a very long time, but he used to be the 155-pound champ of the world. Moves down to 145. He's still undersized, man. The guy should be fighting at 135, but he doesn't fight at 135. He should, but he doesn't. So as a result, you just take on these guys, and at the time, guys at 55, They should have been at 45 too. There was no 45. Now you have 45. Well, the guys at 45, they should be at 55. And the guys at 35, they should be at 45. Everybody gets bigger, faster, stronger. That's sports in general. Frankie Edgar is a guy that's clean. He's a guy that's always done it the right way. And as a result, he's aged naturally. He's smaller because everybody has gotten bigger. And at 45 now, it's okay. He's got to be in the right situation to get these wins. I'm not saying he's one of the best guys in the world or he's not one of the best guys in the world because he absolutely is. But it was very disheartening to see him at UFC 200 against Jose Aldo because he had nothing. He has no power. At least he seemingly had no power. He has no ability to go in there and get in on the hips. He was basically 1 foot in, 1 foot out. He comes in, blitzes you with nothing, and then he's out again. You know, it was very frustrating. I thought he lost all 5 rounds to Jose Aldo. I thought it was a career worst performance for him. But hey, I can't beat the number 2 guy in the world. I never fought Conor McGregor, but I can't beat Jose Aldo, the number 2 guy in the world. And as a result, what do? I'm back at the packing order. So he gets a rebound fight against Jeremy Stephens, wins. I don't think it's the most impressive thing in the world, but you get a real gauge of that. This guy's getting older, you know? When was the last time he really looked good in a fight? Well, he knocked out Chad Mendes. Prior to that, he beat BJ Penn. But what we saw with Yair Rodriguez and BJ Penn is that at some point, Pat, you lose it, right? It's a passing of the torch. I'm not saying he's going to go and thump Frankie the way he thumped BJ, but at some point, Frankie Edgar can't be fighting the number 1 guy in the world anymore. He can't be fighting the number 2 guy in the world anymore. You know, you're going to get older naturally. You're going to slow down. He's revered for his speed and his takedowns, but as he gets a little bit older, well, those takedowns aren't going to come anymore. And that speed, well, you're slowing down a little bit. These are all realities that people have to face in their lives. I'm not saying he's at the end of the road right now. I just mean this is a bad fight for him to take because the casual fan don't know who Yair Rodriguez is yet. This kid might be the world champion in a couple years. But for Frankie Edgar, you're taking a guy that has very little name recognition, and you're essentially allowing this young kid to go there and make a name off of you. And that's exactly what seems to be happening here. So if Yair Rodriguez goes out there and he does exactly what he's capable of doing, 3 rounds of domination, lots of kicks, lots of punch output, flashy stuff, he has a great performance. Even if he loses, I think he gets grounded out, but he's still going to have enough to get up, throw some flashy stuff, score a couple strikes. Could he get finished? Yeah, maybe he gives up his back and he gets rear naked choked. But Frankie's still going to take 4 or 5 rounds to get those moves on people, and this is only a 3-round fight. So I think Yair Rodriguez is safe regardless. $7,600, sign me up. Good price.
And he makes your GPP team. So does Jason Knight. So does Jedrzejczyk. But you also lead the team off with James Vick. You paid up.
Yeah, I had to pay up. I'll tell you something here. Jedrzejczyk, in a perfect world, she's going to go 5 hard rounds.
And just dominate points. And win all 5 and kill it.
Yeah, just dominate points, right? When you look at Yair Rodriguez, he likely 3 and just dominate on points. When I look at Jason Knight, 3, he could get it finished. I think he can get it finished, but mostly I'm looking for him just to dominate points. So I was like, who's going to go out there and just get me that hot finish? Well, James Vick likely appears to be that guy. I believe he's now the biggest favorite, or him and Antigulov are the 2 biggest favorites anyways. But James Vick has got all the tools necessary to beat Poirier Reyes. First of all, pro boxing experience. He's 6'3". That's going to give him 4 inches of height on Poirier Reyes.
Is this a heavyweight fight?
No, it's a lightweight fight.
Lightweight is what?
155 pounds.
And he's 6'3"?
And he's 6'3".
Wow.
He's talked about maybe moving to 170 in the future, and he's a very big boy. But that's normally the one thing he's got coming in, is that he's got this massive, massive height. You can take advantage of his height if you're a very good wrestler, which Marco Polos Reyes is not, or if you're some great striker, gifted striker, big overhand right can catch him. The overhand right will be an option for him, but he's 32 years old. This is very much the best version of him that we've seen. Was probably 2 fights ago against Maestro Dunyan Kim. His last fight against Jason Pepsi Novelli looked pretty flat, to be honest with you. I thought he won the fight. He settled for a split decision win over it, but people got to realize that this is not an all-action, I'm going to get a fight of the night every time I get from him. This is very much, James Vick is from Texas. His nickname is the Texecutioner, and they want to send somebody over there that Vick's going to look good against. Poirier Reyes is very much that guy. Vick has been fighting for the last 4 or 5 years. All better guys than Poirier Reyes. I mean, even when he was on The Ultimate Fighter, Dakota Cochran, Joe Proctor, Darren Cruikshank, he was fighting guys on Tough that were much better than Poirier Reyes. So this is the easiest fight he's probably had in the last 4 years. If you're Poirier Reyes, this is the hardest fight you've had in your entire career. If the fight stays standing, you got to give it to Vick. If the fight hits the ground, you got to give it to Vick. And the last thing is I watched a lot of tape on Poirier Reyes, and he'll push his neck into you if he wants to push you up against the cage or if he tries a sloppy takedown, but he gives up his neck. And I keep looking at the footage and I keep thinking, someone's just going to grab a hold of his neck and choke him. But the guys he's fighting, they're not good enough to do it. James Vick's got a nasty guillotine choke. We've seen him use it effectively in the UFC against Randy Nijim. Goes over to Australia against Jake Matthews, takes out the hometown kid as the underdog once again. Both of those wins were as underdogs, and he has a good guillotine choke. So I literally think everything's there for him. Stay standing, he should have the advantage. If he gets on top, the fight hits the ground and he's on top, he should have the advantage. And the fight hits the ground and he's on the bottom. The guy spent a lot of time with training in Maryland with one of the absolute best jiu-jitsu teams really in the area, Team Lloyd Irvin. And no doubt, if the fight hits the ground and he's on his back, he'll work his way back up. Against Beneil Dariush, maybe that's not an option, but against Paulo Reyes, absolutely. And just to make a joke out of this one, just to cap it off, if Marco Polos Reyes was good at getting away from strikes, then he might have a shot here. Just move away, land something. But it'll be a lot like the children's game Marco Polo Reyes, which I'm sure he's not very good at because his stand's right in front of you. He does not try to get away. You could be blindfolded and still find this guy. So I think Vick will be able to put hands on him and hurt him. I mean, he's got like a 6-inch reach advantage on the guy.
You have Chase Sherman at $8,300 over Rashad and Coulter.
Yeah,
I assume that's his nickname?
You could go the other way on that one for sure. Listen, someone's likely getting knocked out here.
So you're just playing aside?
Yeah, I'm playing aside. You've got Chase Sherman here that's 0-2 in the UFC effectively, right?
He scores a legitimate, how many points is this?
Probably
19 points per fight.
Yeah, so in his debut, he fought Justin Ledet, another Texas-based boxer, and Justin Ledet cut this guy up. I mean, the jab was there all night. The right hand was there all night. Chase Sherman basically just got chewed up, beaten down. But one thing is that his chin looked amazing. I mean, he took a number of shots, Pat, and his cardio looked pretty okay, and he was game. He literally marched forward the whole time and took a beating, tried to establish a leg kick, lost a decision. Now he gets a follow-up fight against Walt Harris. Well, Walt Harris is a front runner. Walt Harris has got to knock you out fast, or Walt Harris just fades out. But he knocked Sherman out pretty fast. Knocks him out in the second round. Sherman didn't look that bad. Physically, he looked in good shape. The guy's 6'4", 250 pounds. He is a bona fide heavyweight, 27 years old. He comes from a football background. So I think a lot of the times that you see him in there, he's athletic. He moves like a big man. But he doesn't really have any fighting skills. I mean, he's learning them in the gym, certainly. When you look at his record, he has one notable victory on it, Jack May. Jack May injured his leg about 47 seconds into the first round. So that's not a win. Let's take that off of his record. He's essentially fought nobody.
But you're taking him anyway.
Because he's made his UFC debut. He's got 3 rounds under his belt in his first fight. He went another 2 rounds in his second fight, and he lost. But the octagon jitters are out of the way. He's 27. He's made some improvements. He's realized I can't just hang out in Mississippi for my training camps. I'm going to go to Greg Jackson's gym. So he spent 4 weeks at this camp with Greg Jackson, and he says his top training partner for the camp has been John Jones. So he's making the right improvements. Now you got Coulter. What happened here was that Chase Sherman called the UFC and was like, I really want on this Dallas card really bad. And they were like, sorry, you're 0-2 in the UFC. You're lucky we didn't cut you. But we don't got a spot for you here. So he looked at the card and he realized there was a heavyweight fight on it. So according to him, stayed in shape, did my research on the 2 guys on the card, and hoped if someone got hurt.
One of them backed out?
Yeah, someone gets hurt. So he's in. Lucky for him, 3 weeks later, that guy got hurt. So they caught a local guy from Dallas on 2 weeks' notice. And then you got Coulter. Coulter's best opponent was something like 3-15, right? He's got 8 wins on his record, Pat. None of them were even there is legitimately just people in this office that would beat the guys that he fought. Larry Hopkins, come on, man. Give your head a shake. Anyways, he's also got a bit of a pro boxing background. He goes as Orlando Coulter as boxer, not Rashad Coulter, so I don't know if he's trying to
he's trying to game something here.
Yeah, but you see him in something like 3 years ago, he was fighting at 187 pounds. Last year, he was fighting at 205 pounds. Now he's ballooned up at 230. He's a single father of 3 kids.
Is he on steroids or is he fat?
No, I mean, he's not on steroids, and he doesn't look fat, but he looks like one of those guys that, like, he's husky. If you and I saw him on the beach, you'd be like, oh, yeah. Compared to anybody else in the UFC, it's like, you're about 40 pounds heavier than you probably should be here. But single father of 3, should not be in the UFC. Literally only getting this call because he's local from Texas.
But he could win.
But he could win for the sole purpose that he just
lands a right hand.
He's just got the right hand, and Chase Sherman is hittable. So could Chase Sherman do that goofy-ass thing where he walks in and gets clubbed? Sure. But important to realize here that Chase Sherman is 6'4", 250, and that's what he is. And we've got Coulter, who's 6 foot, and likely 195 pounds is what he should be fighting at. So you're going to at least have to assume that on natural body weight, Sherman's going to have 20, 30 pounds.
So you're just going with pure athleticism here. Just pure talent over a guy who's not very good.
Yeah, he's also 27 years old, comes from a football background. The other guy's 35 years old, comes from a football background. So I got the younger, bigger, faster athlete who's already made his UFC debut. This guy here, Coulter, has never been outside of the first round. In fact, the longest he's ever fought in his career, Pat, was 3 minutes. But now you got to make that walk down to the UFC. You're walking into...
What are the odds in this fight?
Close, man.
Should I be hammering Chase Sherman?
You know what? I would be, only it's Chase Sherman, right? Like, I think it's set up here for the win. Here's the thing, is that this is a prize fighting. And if Chase Sherman's got one disadvantage here, is that he's real tall and he doesn't really move his head. So Coulter's going to come out hot for the first round. But as soon as the first round ends, if Sherman's still standing, and Sherman does have a good chin, if he's still standing after first round, I have to assume that's it for Coulter. You're 35. You took the fight on 2 weeks' notice. You're local.
Probably smokes.
You're the father of 3. Well, we've got another guy here who died of a heroin overdose like 2 years ago. So
isn't that McCall? Isn't he the guy?
No, this guy's now the 4th guy to die of a drug overdose. So we've got Ian McCall, Matt Brown, Court McGee, and now Jared Gordon.
All right, last fight, and it's probably the biggest fight on the card, I'm guessing. I mean, it's for the title. It's the one on the poster behind you where they get their faces put on it.
Gotta talk
you
about
are
it,
taking
right?
Junior Dos Santos over Stipe. Why?
Yeah, well, first of all, I mean, shockingly good price on him, $7,700.
What are the odds in this fight?
Plus 105 Junior.
So it's basically a coin flip.
Yeah, it's a coin flip.
And you're getting $7,700 for Junior?
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Oh, yeah, and they fought already once before, and Junior Dos Santos beat him. So I got the guy that's already won this fight as far as I'm concerned.
Can you knock him out?
He can knock him out. The last time they fought, they both got rocked. Both got rocked. But what happened there is that Stipe started out quick. Junior started out real slow, real plodding, and just didn't have a great performance through the first couple rounds. It's that he started to figure out Stipe eventually. Stipe Miocic is known for the ability to take guys down and use the striking. If he goes out there and he's just a better striker than you, Pat, he'll just maul you striking. But if he's not a better striker than you, then he'll do exactly what he did against, say, Mark Hunt. I'll just take the guy down at will and pound him. So now he gets Alistair Overeem. Well, I'll stand with this guy. No, you can't stand with this guy, right? This guy's got dynamite in his hands. And what happens is Alistair Overeem really badly hurts Stipe Miocic. I mean, Stipe's able to get back up. And what does he revert to? The wrestling. He takes Overeem down, and now he's on top of Overeem. This is nothing. And what's Overeem going to do from his back? I'm going to pound him out. And he does exactly that. He goes out there and he pounds him out. He tried to take Junior Dos Santos down in the first encounter 18 times. He was successful on one of those attempts, right? Roughly translate to 5% of the time he's able to get the takedown. So I don't think the takedown's going to be an option here. So now you got two guys that are going to stand, they're going to bang. What we've seen with Stipe is that the last time against Overeem, standing and banging, got him really stung. Now I know what people are probably writing already. Wow, Overeem knocked out Junior Dos Santos. I get it, but we're getting a different version of Junior Dos Santos here. We're getting a guy that left his training camp up in Brazil, moved full-time to American Top Team. Through that, he reads the forums, he gets it, his training partners, his coaches are saying the same thing everybody else is saying. This guy's shot porn. This guy's taking way too much damage. So he sits on the sideline, fights once in like 2 years. All of a sudden, his wits are there. His speed's coming back. His senses are coming back. His reaction time's coming back. And you see him against Ben Rothwell, he can go out there and he can just cleanly beat this guy down almost in every single area. It's, well, you know what? That's what Junior can do when he's healthy, when he's focused, when he's ready. Flip side, you got Stipe Miocic. Now, this is probably the shocking stat for at least most people. Certainly shocking to me is that Stipe Miocic is actually older than Junior Dos Santos, right? So Junior Dos Santos is the younger athlete. But with Stipe Miocic, you got a guy that's from Cleveland, Ohio. And this guy goes out and he wins the world title.
In Cleveland, wasn't it?
Yeah, and it's this amazing thing. It's just like, oh, wow, I'm the first, technically speaking, he's the first Clevelander to bring in a world title, right? Because baseball and basketball and all these other teams weren't doing it at the time. They said he broke the curse because LeBron brought a title like right after that. But shit, this guy's been partying it up, Pat. I mean, every time you see him, he's having a good time, having a couple drinks, balloons up in weight here and there. Now, all the reports on him right now is that he's real sharp tuned, he's real fine, he's on point. But the fact is that he never left Ohio. He's a big star over there. You see him courtside at the NBA games. You see him as the talk of the town. You see him just enjoying life. And as a result, he's not Junior Dos Santos going to American Top Team and getting ready with some of the best heavyweights. He's not the guy that's going out there and seeking the best training partners. He's basically just hanging out in Ohio and doing what he's always done. And that'll get you some success, don't get me wrong. But this is a guy that's already beaten beating you. This is a guy that's got very, very, very heavy hands. And if you're enjoying yourself, and listen, what champ wouldn't enjoy themselves? I'm finally a millionaire. I'm finally self-sustainable with my career in my life. I've got a family. I got some money. Let's go have a good time. I get that. Junior was there once himself too, but he's on the comeback trail. He's motivated. He wants this. You see pictures of this guy. You watch videos of this guy. He's in phenomenal shape. So look at the value here, and I think, listen, can Junior go out there and get the win? I think so. Can Junior go out there and knock him? I think so. Is there a lot of risk in this fight? Yeah. So don't put him on a cash game team. But that same risk is the same risk that you need to take if you want to win a GPP. And a lot of people are going Stipe. So if we can weed them out right off the bat with the JDS win, then we've got high upside with the points, and we can also take out a lot of players that are taking Stipe. So I think it's a win-win. I like it. If you're going to play multiple lineups, I guess don't play them on all of them, but I do like them.
All right. Those are the teams. Let's win some money.
Win some money. This is going to be a tough card,
Who's going to be the parlay buster? It's gonna be that Sherman guy, isn't it?
Well, I mean, he's on a GPP. We know what we're getting at.
No, but let's say I put together like a 7-fight parlay. He's going to be the guy that blows it, isn't he?
Sherman, yeah. Okay, I'm going to be perfectly level with you. And I'm looking at this card, and I've been actually doing as much research as I can anyways. Just like the old days. Makes me feel good. But all the B-sides on here got a shot. Polo Reyes, this guy's probably one of the bigger dogs on the card. He's got the ability to go out there and hit James Vick, hurt him. James Vick stands very upright. This guy's got a good right hand. He can close that distance. He's not all that fast, but we've seen what he looks like at his best.
What about Michael Quinones?
Michel Quinones. Michael Quinones. This guy's 32. A little bit late to be jumping into the UFC, so to speak, but he comes from Titan FC, which is primarily a big UFC feeder organization, and he's looked fairly good there. So he's won his last 6 in a row. He's beaten a couple decent guys. KO Uruguay was a 6-0 Brazilian. I wasn't very high up on him, but Quinones goes out there, gets the 29-28 over him. Billy Quintero is actually on tough. Do like this kid, was 7-1 at the time. He knocks him out with a head kick. Here's my biggest thing here. And you know what? I want to get your take on it. It reminds me of my good friend Donnelly.
Oh, God.
Which we won't get fully into, but
He just won, right?
Yeah. Apparently he's moving to China, but we'll see what happens.
Cool. Money over in China.
Yeah, exactly. So we got Jared Gordon here, right? Jared Gordon, young up-and-comer. Sky's the limit for the guy. Brown belt under John Danaher. John Danaher, by the way, up in New York, he runs a jiu-jitsu squad called John Danaher's Death Squad. And he's a brown belt under Danaher. So I think a lot of people are saying he's a brawler and just tries to, muscle his way to the takedown. If he is on top, I would be worried. But that aside, he gets into MMA at 17, right? He decides, hey, you know what? I like this sport. I want to learn how to defend myself. Boom, 17. Starts fighting amateur at 18. Starts to get into it at 19. Gets addicted to painkillers at 19. By 20, he's now addicted to heroin. By 21, he overdoses the first time. By 22, he dies. Dies for 2 minutes. They bring him back to life. They get him back on track. Okay, we're back on track. No worries, Jared Gordon. He doesn't come from an athletic background, Pat. He wasn't a wrestler in high school. He wasn't a boxer. He didn't do anything. Just 17's actually a little bit late to be getting into it. Considering Quinones has been doing karate and taekwondo since he was 7 years old, 17's a little bit late, but all that's besides the point. You're addicted to heroin at 22. You're dead at 22. You know what they do to save the guy's life? They stick him in jail. Does a couple years in jail, realizes, you know what? I want to get back to fighting. Comes out of fighting. Goes on a little bit of a run. Goes to Mexico, wins basically a one-night tournament, 4 fights in like 3 days in Mexico. Wins, beats some lower-level guys. He gets a regional title fight in New Jersey, right? Taking on Jeff Lentz, who's on The Ultimate Fighter, who's the only guy I've ever seen smoke cigs the entire time. He was on his rider for stuff he needed, just would smoke cigs. Like, he'd tape guys' hands.
I love him.
Oh, he was great. Great times. Josh Koscheck would be like, dude, you're really good at taping hands. You should get used to it because you're not going to fight and keep smoking. But he fought, damn it. He fought well. So he fights Jeff Lentz. First round, very close. Lentz is a fairly tough guy, too. Second round, very close. Third round, Lentz hits him with a knee, shatters his eye socket, right? So it was a 5-rounder, and the ref actually called the fight off after the third round. It was just like, dude, your face looks imploded. So he goes to the doctor. Doctor's like, yeah, we're going to have to do surgery on your face right away. Here, we're going to have to put you on some pain meds. He's like, I can't take pain meds. I'm a recovering heroin addict. They're like, well, your face is mangled. You need to take the pain meds. He's like, if I take them, I'll relapse. They're like, you got to take them. So he does, and then he relapses. So Christmas Eve 2015, he overdosed again. And the cops there, instead of bringing him to jail, brought him to the hospital. He lived. He's in AA as well. He lists as every UFC questionnaire, you have a hero. His hero is his AA sponsor. The guy has been back fighting after his overdose for, according to him, 16 months. I just can't get behind him. He's the favorite in this fight. He's not fought anybody notable in his career. The only time he's fought a guy that is named is Jeff Lentz, and Jeff Lentz beat him. And Jeff Lentz never fought in the UFC.
His face.
And broke his face. And now he's got Quinones, a guy that's knocked out 3 of his last 4 opponents, who's won 7 in a row, who has fought relatively the same level of opposition, but he's from American Top Team. So every single day that you were out in Queens, New York, shooting your arm up with junk, they pulled him out of a rematch with Jeff Lentz. His coach pulled him out of the rematch because he had track marks going down his entire arm. And the town they found him in a dirty old motel room overdosing the last time. And essentially, the only reason that the cops even showed up is because when he robbed some drug dealer for the money, passed out and hit his head on a lamp. The lamp broke on the ground, so the neighbors called the cops, and the cops showed up and he's feeling this guy ODing. He could be dead right now. But all I'm saying is, when you look at Matt Brown, when you look at Ian McCall, who came from a base anyhow, when you look at Court McGee, those guys all died of drug overdoses. That's unfortunate. They all worked really, really, really hard to get their lives back on track and to grind their way to the UFC. This guy shouldn't have been in the UFC. But you know that show, Dana White looking for a fighter?
Oh, yeah.
You got to sign somebody. So why not sign the recovering junk addict? That's obviously mean, and I do apologize. If you're a fan, just take this as satire. It's a true story. But I'm never trying to discredit someone.
Yeah, don't worry about that.
You get what I mean.
Yeah.
I just mean that.
We're talking about betting and picking on someone. This guy doesn't sound like the most reliable guy to bet on.
No,
if he's a favorite, too.
He's the favorite. And I really can't get behind the idea that while one guy was, according to him too, I was homeless, I was robbing people and panhandling on the streets of New York, trying to feed my addiction, and I stopped going to the gym. Well, while you were doing all that, between 16 months and 2 years ago, your opponent was in American Top Team in Southern Florida. Even when he's not down with American Top Team, he's training with good guys in Southern Florida. And you look at the fact that this card features 8 American Top Team representatives on it. You look at the fact that guys like Dustin Poirier, who are in his weight class, are getting ready for high-profile fights, then you know Quinones is going to be in good shape. So listen.
Should we maybe throw him on a team?
I honestly think
he's $7,300.
a decision would be likely to where I think he's headed. If he's going to get the win, this guy's faced worse than some punches and kicks in the head before. You know what I mean? He'll persevere if there's a way to persevere. He's tough. It's just when you look at him on the Ultimate, there's not a whole lot of footage available, but when I watch any footage of him, I think the same thing. He looks slow. He just looks very slow and plodding. I don't know if that's just he's always been a slow guy, but he's very much like, bite down in your mouthpiece, close that distance, and make this guy pay. And against someone who's got excellent footwork, excellent distance management like Michel Quinones, yeah, if this is straight up bet, I think most people would probably be better off to pass. But if you're looking for dogs, here's a dog. If you're looking for a cheap play on DK, especially on like a cash game, yeah, I can see Quinones. The only thing I'm really worrying about is because there's no footage pretty much out there, the fact that he is a brown belt under John Danaher, they don't just hand those out. He's got to have something on the ground. It's just we haven't really witnessed it. Maybe that's his key to victory here, but I'm going to have to avoid him.
Anyone else you want to talk about? What about your main man, Krzysztof Jotko?
Krzysztof Jotko, you can't sleep on this guy, man. 18-1, his record's phenomenal.
He's $8,700. I assume he's a big favorite.
No, he's a minus 150. Dave Branch, his opponent is on a 10-fight winning streak right now.
Okay.
And well, he's fighting nobodies like Teddy Holder. Yeah, but he also beat Vinny Maglash and Paulo Filo and Yushin Okami and Clifford Starks and
we
Lewis
can all beat
Taylor.
the commies.
He's beaten some good guys. Now he's a little bit older, and if his path to victory here is he's got to get the fight to the ground against Jotko, who moves exceptionally well, it's going to be a tough one. Jotko's last fight against Talis Latis. People were picking Talis Latis. Talis Latis is more experienced. He's better on the ground. He'll be able to corner him. He'll be able to figure it out. He just couldn't. Jotko made him look real human, just made him look bad, made him look stiff. I think the same thing probably happens here, although it's probably going to go 15 for $8,700.
Not enough?
No, not enough. Let's see. Coulter, you could definitely sprinkle him on some stuff. Enrique Barzola. Now, Barzola's taking on Gabriel Benitez. I was not super high on Benitez, but he kicks like a mule. And he'll just keep kicking and kicking and kicking and kicking and kicking. Now, Barzola's problem is that he's from Peru, and it's such an impoverished
nation?
Yeah, well, especially the area he's from. There's so little money, there's so little training resources that he goes out there and he wins basically just because he has to. I got to make the money.
I feel like when you get to the UFC level, that's probably not the best strategy to take.
Right, so he's decided for his last 2 fights ago and now this fight that he's going to go to American Top Team and get the training in. The thing is that he don't speak a lick of English, so I just feel like the training is not going to be as good for a guy like that.
Yeah, but there must be other guys. What is Peru? Peru's probably Spanish, or is it Portuguese? It's probably Spanish, right?
Do they speak? I think they speak Peruvian.
I don't think Peruvian's a language.
You should check that out, pal.
Peruvian's definitely not a language.
Oh, what are
there might be a Spanish like dialect of
okay.
like a Peru, but I'm thinking like what they speak in Spain, what they speak in Mexico, what they speak in Peru is probably all the same. I could be way off base on that, but like the Brazilians speak Portuguese, just like they do in Portugal.
Well, what I found was interesting is that there's 3 main gyms. Well, there was 3 main gyms in Florida, right? American Top Team, they've been out there forever. MMA Masters has been there for a very long time. The Black
official language is Spanish.
Yeah, why did I think Peruvian? Well,
and he's going
on to the next one.
And he's from Peru, it says.
Yeah.
But he's going to Top Team in South Florida.
Yes.
They must have people who speak.
You know what? If it's just Spanish, 100%.
Okay, so maybe he's looking better now.
But there's a gym in South Florida, MMA Masters, that's run by Peruvian guys, and he didn't go there. But Barzola just doesn't quit. He's not super technical. His wrestling's not very good. His striking's not very good. But he just goes.
The way that you've just described him. He just sounds like he's not very good.
He won the Ultimate Fighter, and he wasn't supposed to win. In his second fight in the UFC against Kyle Bochniak, he lost the fight by split decision in Vancouver, but a lot of people, actually it was unanimous, a lot of people thought he should have won the fight. A lot of people thought, geez, you know what? He went out there and he showed improved striking. He goes out in his last fight against Chris Avila, and the thing is, Chris Avila's got nothing back for him. I mean, he would take Avila down, and Avila's ground game's good enough to just, he's not going to follow me to the ground, and if he does, I'll roll for a leg lock and get back up. But Barzola's just able to go out there, score 6 takedowns, beat the guy to the punch, beat him up. That's a good confidence booster. But you're coming out here against Benitez, and Benitez is a guy that's fought probably the better level of opposition, but it's his kicking game. And also, he does get taken down. Clay Collard took him down 6 times, but he still beat Clay Collard. Andre Fili took him down, but he still popped up before he got knocked out. But when he gets taken down, he does not spend a whole lot of time on the ground at all. Barzola's issue is that he takes down a lot of guys, but he never holds down anybody. So you got a guy here that maybe is susceptible to the takedown, but pops right back up, versus a guy with good takedowns that can't hold guys down. So I think the fight's going to take place standing. And if it's going to take place standing, Barzola doesn't have the power to get Benitez's respect. And with that, he's basically just a punch output guy. He'll have better punch output than Benitez. Benitez hits him. He's a southpaw. He'll hit him with the liver kick from the left side. He'll hit him with the inside leg kick from the outside. He'll hit him in the shoulder and in the elbow and just slow Barzola down to the point that Barzola is not going to have as much to offer him. And I do see Benitez going out there and getting a decision. I just didn't really want to put other guy in my team.
Well, here's the thing. If it goes to decision, there's a chance Barzola could win, isn't there?
Yeah, and you know what?
He's 72.
I did have him on my team, but I worked it off because I thought there's better options.
Fair enough.
Damian Maia, if you're going to... I guess you could play both, but if you're going to play multiple GPPs, I don't mind George Masvidal as a play. Honestly, Damian Maia, the guy looks fantastic. Trust me, I love the guy. He can get a takedown on anybody. He scored takedowns in his last 11 fights. He takes down good wrestlers. Rory McDonald, John Fitch, Jake Shields.
What happened to Rory McDonald?
He's fighting next weekend in Bellator.
Oh.
But Damian Maia can go out there and he can take down any man. The thing is that he's got to submit you. If he doesn't submit you, then he's going to start to tire. Now, I know he looked great against Gunnar Nelson. I know that he looked great against, obviously, Carlos Condit, who he submitted. But I look at the areas where he's not looking good. And against Matt Brown in that 3rd round, he gets hit, he gets hurt. Matt Brown has a lapse in ring IQ and decides to try to grapple with him, or at least try to stuff the takedown and stays in. Bad move. Ryan LaFleur, 5th round. He's got him on skates. He's got Damian Maia hurt. Damian Maia is 39 and a half years old. If he wins this fight, he's next in line for a UFC title shot. He would get his title shot at 40 years old. You know? I'm not saying the game's passed him by because it certainly has not. He's still one of the best guys. He is one of the best welterweights that's probably ever competed, but certainly one of the top guys right now. But I'm going to go back to what I said against Jacare. Jacare was 37. He was the best jiu-jitsu guy in the division. And, it doesn't matter that he can't strike because he just gets everyone down and submits them. But eventually, someone's going to have your number. Maia's won 6 in a row. He's beaten these guys. A couple guys had opportunities, but he's beaten these guys. But this is the same thing. Well, sure, he's old, but he's so good on the ground. Yeah, but what happens when the fight doesn't hit the ground? Well, he's taken down his last 11 opponents, Cody. You said it so yourself. You're right. He's taken down his last 11 opponents. He's been able to use that strategy. But at some point, it's not going to go well for him. And also, so what that he takes Masvidal down? If he doesn't submit Masvidal's going to have every opportunity to get back up and make him pay. Jacare got a takedown on Whitaker, but what happened? He didn't submit him right away. So Whitaker got out. Now you got to strike with a better striker. Maia's been one punch in his career. Obviously, it was a long time ago in Nate Marquardt, but is anybody super confident that if he doesn't get the fight to the ground, that he can stand with George Masvidal? No. No one thinks he can stand with George Masvidal. So finally, all I'm really saying here is that the things that Masvidal does poorly, sure, Maia does great. But the things that Maia does poorly, that's a huge glaring issue for him. Because Masvidal can still choke you out. Masvidal can still defend. Masvidal can still get up. Whereas if Demian Maia is standing for 15 minutes, fish out of water. He's going to get completely butchered. He will get knocked out, probably in the second or third round. I think if I look at Masvidal's price tag, I don't mind it. He's not a good cash game play because he could get stomped out here. And I do like him on GPP, but I just loaded my GPP with other things that I like. I couldn't really.
But if we're doing this like multiple lineup thing, and we have Jedrzejczyk on so many of these, just take her off and put Masvidal on.
Yeah, and listen, then you're gonna save what, $600, and you can use that $600 for something else. There's a lot of good options. There's a lot of different options. Those are the fights that I see. It's a GPP because you need a couple bounces to go right. But, I mean, I read the message boards. Just something I found funny is that the line opens and Maia's the favorite, right? And everybody I talk to has got Maia. Everybody's got Maia. And then right away, as soon as the line opens, all the money comes on Masvidal. He switches to the favorite, and it sat there for the last 2 weeks. But everybody I talked to still got Demian Maia. I'm not buying into it. I think George Masvidal's got his number. I think he goes out there, and I think he gets the win.
Cool. Cody Saftic. Check him out on Twitter, @CJ Saftic. Any final thoughts? MMA/UFC related? You fired up for Bellator and Rory McDonald?
Yeah, next week. And honestly, there's just been so much going on that, I don't know, I just feel out of it. Been watching a lot of boxing lately, which has been good times, by the way.
You winning on the boxing?
Yeah, dude, Yuri Gamboa. Guy's made out of Cuban glass, and he was 25-1. Ooh. Anyways. It's a good time. Listen, combat sports is the greatest entity in the world, man. Two people getting in there and laying it on the line, it's just big. It's just, I don't know. Obviously, I do miss Paul. I'm not saying anything against our show. We used to do our show at the same time that we did the Paul show, but I could just sit here and talk about every single person on this list forever.
And I'm not the person to talk about that with. Yeah, if we're not talking about DraftKings. Paul is.
I just feel like I'm ranting a lot of the time.
I agree.
Right?
Well, I have nothing to add.
That doesn't matter.
I have strategy questions from time to time, but you do need a platform to talk about this. This is the platform.
I couldn't agree more, man. So I'm just, I'm like optimistic that something will come down in the future, that something will work its way out, whether it's Bookie Beatdown, whether it's something else. So just get back to being happy again, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's try to work on that.
All right.
And you always need to hear from the people like, hey, Pat Mayo sucks, Cody rules. That's like comments that people leave. Anyway, you can harass me on Twitter @thepme or just subscribe to the Pat Mayo Hour and leave your comments. If you're going to leave your comments, your mean comments, at least subscribe and help me out just a little bit. You can even subscribe to the audio versions too, like YouTube, or not YouTube, that's a video, iTunes, Stitcher, Podomatic, Audio Boom, Google Play, and iHeartRadio are all places where you can check out the Pat Mayo Hour audio versions on demand, uncut, free. And that's really the best part. I'm Pat Mayo. Good luck this week at UFC 211. I'll see you next time.